I used to be the kind of husband people called secure, not because I didn't care, but because I trusted. When my wife Sarah said she had another girls' trip, another weekend getaway, another team retreat, I never checked her phone or tracked her location. I told myself love was built on freedom, not suspicion. But something about this trip felt different. She packed too fast, kissed me too quickly, and walked out like she was late for a life I wasn't part of. "Have a great time, honey," I called out as she loaded her overnight bag into her silver Honda. "Tell the girls I said hi." Sarah barely looked back. "Sure thing, Jack. Don't wait up." The door slammed with a finality that made my coffee taste bitter. I watched through our kitchen window as she backed out of our driveway in our quiet New England neighborhood, her phone already pressed to her ear before she'd even reached the street. After 23 years of marriage, you develop instincts. Mine were screaming. I waited exactly 2 hours before doing something I'd never done in over 2 decades together. I picked up my phone and texted Lisa, Sarah's closest friend from work. "Hey Lisa, just wanted to confirm the hotel name for this weekend in case of emergency. Sarah forgot to leave me the details. Thanks." The response came back faster than I expected. "What weekend trip? I'm home with the kids all weekend." My stomach dropped, but I kept texting. Maybe Lisa wasn't invited this time. I tried Jennifer, another friend from Sarah's book club. "Hope you ladies have fun this weekend." Sarah was so excited about the getaway. Jennifer's reply made my hands shake. "Jack, I think there's been some confusion. We don't have any plans this weekend. Are you okay?" That's when my phone rang. It was Lisa. "Jack, what's going on? Jennifer just called me. We're both worried. Sarah told us she was staying home this weekend to work on your garden together." The coffee mug slipped from my fingers and shattered against our kitchen floor. 23 years of trust cracked along with it. She said she was going away with you guys, a girls' weekend in Vermont." Lisa's silence stretched long enough for me to count my heartbeats. When she finally spoke, her voice was gentle but firm. "Jack, there's something you need to know. Sarah's been seeing someone, a man from her office. His name is David Chen. I'm sorry, I thought you knew." The kitchen spun around me. I gripped the counter until my knuckles went white. "How long?" "At least 6 months that I know of. Maybe longer. Jack, I'm so sorry. We wanted to tell you, but Sarah made us promise." I hung up. For the next hour, I sat in my kitchen surrounded by broken ceramic, staring at my phone. Then I did something else I'd never done. I opened our shared phone plan and checked Sarah's location. She wasn't in Vermont. She was 3 towns over, at an address I didn't recognize. I plugged the address into Google Maps. It was a luxury apartment complex called Harbor View Towers. I drove there in my pickup truck, hands steady on the wheel despite the hurricane in my chest. The building was sleek glass and steel, the kind of place that screamed money. I parked across the street and waited. At 4:17 p.m., I saw them. Sarah walked out of the building's main entrance, laughing at something the man beside her was saying. He was younger than me, maybe mid-30s, wearing an expensive suit and the kind of confident smile that comes from never being told no. David Chen, I assumed. He pulled her close and kissed her, not a friendly peck. A deep, intimate kiss that belonged to lovers, not colleagues. Sarah melted into him like she hadn't melted into me in years. I watched my wife of 23 years kiss another man in broad daylight, and something inside me died. But something else was born, something cold and calculating. I drove home and did what I do best. I made a plan. That evening, I texted Sarah. "Hope you're having fun with the girls. Miss you." She responded an hour later. "Missing you too. Girls are being crazy as usual. Probably won't be able to talk much tonight." I stared at that message for a long time. Then I typed back, "Who are you really with, Sarah?" The response came fast, like she'd rehearsed it. "What's that supposed to mean? Stop being jealous. Don't start this again." Another message followed immediately. "If you're going to be jealous every time I go out, just block me." Then my phone showed the message I never thought I'd see from my own wife. "This person has blocked your number." She blocked me, her husband of 23 years, like I was some stalker ex-boyfriend instead of the man who'd held her hand through her father's funeral, who'd worked double shifts to pay for her master's degree, who'd given her the best years of my life. I set my phone down and walked to my home office. I pulled out a yellow legal pad and wrote at the top, "Evidence. If Sarah wanted to play games, I'd show her what happened when you played games with a man who'd spent 15 years managing construction projects. I knew how to build things, and I knew how to tear them down." The first item on my list was simple. Find David Chen's address. The second, document everything. The third, lawyer. By the time Sarah came home Sunday night with her fake stories about spa treatments and wine tastings, I was ready. I greeted her with a smile and asked about her weekend. She lied to my face for 20 minutes straight, describing restaurants that didn't exist and conversations that never happened. I nodded and smiled and played the role of the trusting husband one last time. But inside, I was already building her destruction. Monday morning, Sarah left for work like nothing had changed. She kissed my cheek at the breakfast table and reminded me to pick up the dry cleaning. "Have a good day at the office," I said, buttering my toast. "Say hi to David for me." She froze with her coffee cup halfway to her lips. "What?" "David Chen, from your department. You've mentioned him before." I kept my voice casual, conversational. "Seems like a nice guy." Sarah's face went pale, but she recovered quickly. "Oh, right. David. Yeah, he's fine. Just a colleague." "Of course," I smiled. "Just a colleague." After she left, I got to work. First stop, our home computer. Sarah had always been careless with passwords, using the same one for everything, our wedding date plus her maiden name. It took me 10 minutes to access her email. What I found there made my breakfast turn to ash in my mouth. Months of messages, dozens of them. David wasn't just some casual fling. This was a full-blown affair, complete with I love you messages and detailed plans for their future together. The worst part wasn't the sex talk, though there was plenty of that. It was the way she talked about me, about our marriage, about our life together. "Jack is so clueless," she'd written just last week. "Sometimes I think I could bring David home for dinner and Jack would just ask him about the weather." Another message from 3 weeks ago. "I can't wait to be done with this charade. Jack's a good man, but he's so boring. You make me feel alive again." And the one that nearly broke me? "I've been thinking about divorce. Jack deserves someone who actually loves him, and I deserve to be happy." I printed everything. Every message, every photo, every plan they'd made behind my back. The printer ran for 20 minutes straight. Next, I called my buddy Pete, who ran a private investigation business on the side. We'd known each other since high school, and I trusted him completely. "Pete, I need a favor, a big one." "What's going on, Jack?" I told him everything. Pete listened without interrupting, which I appreciated. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. "Shit, man, I'm sorry. Sarah always seemed so... I never would have guessed." "Can you help me?" "Of course. What do you need?" "Everything. Financial records, phone records, travel records. I want to know every lie she's told and every dollar she's spent on this affair." "That's going to take some time, and it won't be cheap." "I don't care about the cost. I care about the truth." Pete promised to start immediately. By Wednesday, he had preliminary results. Sarah had been using our joint credit card to pay for hotel rooms, expensive dinners, and even lingerie I'd never seen. She'd opened a secret checking account and had been funneling money from our savings into it. She'd taken sick days that corresponded perfectly with David's business trips. But the real bombshell came Thursday. "Jack, you need to sit down for this one," Pete said when he called. "What did you find?" "David Chen is married. Has been for 8 years. His wife's name is Rebecca. They have 2 kids." The room tilted. "Are you sure?" "Positive. I've got photos of them at their daughter's soccer game last weekend. Same weekend Sarah was supposedly in Vermont." I closed my eyes. Sarah wasn't just cheating on me. She was helping David cheat on his wife and kids. "There's more," Pete continued. "Rebecca Chen doesn't know about the affair, but I think she should, don't you?" That evening, I sat in my kitchen with a beer and stared at Rebecca Chen's phone number. Pete had found it easily enough. She worked as a nurse at the local hospital and coached her daughter's Little League team. By all accounts, she was a good woman married to a lying piece of shit. I picked up my phone 3 times before I finally dialed. "Hello?" "Hi, is this Rebecca Chen?" "Yes. Who's this?" "My name is Jack Fenwick. I don't think we've met, but I believe our spouses know each other. I was wondering if we could meet for coffee. There's something I think you should know about your husband David." The silence stretched so long, I thought she'd hung up. "What about David?" "I'd rather discuss this in person if that's okay. It's important." Another pause. Then, "Tomorrow, noon, Starbucks on Main Street." "I'll be there." "Mr. Fenwick?" "Yes?" "This is about another woman, isn't it?" "Yes, ma'am, I'm afraid it is." When I hung up, I felt something I hadn't felt in weeks, relief. Not because the conversation had been easy, but because I was finally doing something instead of just sitting there and taking it. Sarah came home that night humming. Actually humming, like she didn't have a care in the world. She'd probably spent her lunch break texting David, planning their next secret weekend. "Good day?" I asked. The best, she said, kissing my cheek. Work was great. I might have to travel next weekend, though. Another conference. Of course you do. She looked at me strangely. Is that a problem? No problem at all, honey. You should definitely go to your conference. I smiled and went back to reading my newspaper, but inside I was counting down the hours until my meeting with Rebecca Chen. It was time to start tearing down the walls of Sarah's secret world. Rebecca Chen was exactly what I'd expected, tired, worried, and trying very hard to hold herself together. She arrived at Starbucks 10 minutes early, just like I did. I recognized her immediately from the photos Pete had shown me. Shoulder-length black hair, kind eyes, and the sort of practical clothing that spoke of a woman too busy taking care of everyone else to worry about fashion. She'd chosen a corner table away from the crowd. Smart woman. Mrs. Chen? I approached carefully, carrying 2 coffee cups. I got you a latte. I hope that's okay. Thank you. Her voice was steady, but I could see her hands shaking slightly as she accepted the cup. Please, call me Rebecca. I sat down across from her and pulled out a manila folder. Before I start, I want you to know how sorry I am to have to tell you this. And I want you to know that I have proof of everything I'm about to say. Rebecca nodded. I've suspected for months. David's been different, distant. He's been working late, traveling more, and when he is home, he's always on his phone. She looked up at me with eyes that had clearly shed a lot of tears recently. It's my husband, isn't it? He's having an affair with your wife. Yes. I opened the folder and showed her the printed emails, the credit card statements, the photos Pete had taken of them together. Rebecca looked at each piece of evidence carefully, her face growing paler with each page. When she finished, she set the papers down and stared at her coffee cup. How long have you known? She asked. About a week. You? I've suspected for 3 months, but I kept telling myself I was being paranoid. David kept saying I was imagining things, that I was being insecure. She laughed bitterly. Turns out I wasn't paranoid enough. What do you want to do about it? Rebecca looked up at me, and I saw something fierce in her eyes. I want them to face consequences. Real consequences. I'm tired of being lied to, and I'm tired of being made to feel crazy for noticing that my husband doesn't love me anymore. I was hoping you'd say that. Over the next hour, we shared our stories. Rebecca told me about David's sudden interest in expensive clothes, his new gym membership, his mysterious client dinners that always seemed to run until midnight. I told her about Sarah's fake girls' trips, her blocked phone number, her sudden dissatisfaction with everything about our life together. The thing that kills me, Rebecca said, is that I've been trying so hard to save our marriage. I suggested counseling. I planned special date nights. I bought new lingerie thinking maybe if I tried harder, he'd pay attention to me again. Meanwhile, he was using our joint account to buy lingerie for your wife. I know the feeling. Last month, I surprised Sarah with tickets to that musical she'd been wanting to see. She said she was too tired to go. Turns out she was tired because she'd spent the previous night in a hotel with David. Rebecca wiped her eyes with a napkin. What kind of people do this? How do they look at us every day and lie so easily? I don't know, but I know what kind of people we are. We're the kind who deserve better. So what's the plan? I leaned forward. I want to confront them together. Both of them at the same time. I want them to see that their secret is out and that we're not going to just quietly go away. When? Sarah's planning another fake conference next weekend. I'm betting David will be there too. What do you think? Rebecca nodded slowly. David told me he has a business trip to Portland next weekend, but I checked with his company. There's no business trip scheduled. Perfect. So they'll be together, thinking they're safe. That's when we show up. Where? I pulled out my phone and showed her the address Pete had tracked them to before. Harborview Towers, apartment 412. David's been renting it for 6 months. Rebecca stared at the address. 6 months. They've been doing this for 6 months, and I've been home making dinner and helping with homework while he's been... Rebecca. She looked up. They're going to pay for this. Both of them. I promise you that. We exchanged phone numbers and made plans to meet again before the weekend. As we walked out of Starbucks together, Rebecca stopped and turned to me. Jack? Yeah? Thank you for calling me, for showing me the truth. I know this wasn't easy for you. It was the right thing to do. They made this mess together. They can face the consequences together. That night, Sarah came home with takeout Chinese food and a cheerful story about her day. She'd gotten a promotion, she said. More responsibility, better pay, more travel opportunities. That's wonderful, honey, I said, accepting the container of lo mein. You deserve it. I might have to start traveling more, though. The new position requires a lot of client meetings in different cities. Of course it does. You're okay with that, right? I know we haven't been spending as much time together lately. I looked at my wife across our kitchen table, still beautiful at 45, still capable of making my heart skip when she smiled, and I felt nothing but pity for her. I'm fine with it, Sarah. You should definitely pursue every opportunity that comes your way. You're the best husband ever, Jack. I'm so lucky to have someone who trusts me completely. I smiled and took another bite of lo mein. Trust is everything in a marriage, isn't it? Absolutely. After dinner, Sarah went upstairs to take a bath. I heard her on the phone through the bathroom door, talking in the low, intimate voice she used to use with me. I miss you too, she was saying. Only 3 more days until Portland. I can't wait to wake up next to you again. I went to my office and called Rebecca. It's confirmed, I said when she answered. Portland, this weekend. They're planning to spend Friday and Saturday night together. David just told me the same thing. He'll be leaving Friday morning and coming back Sunday evening. Perfect. That gives us time to plan exactly how we want to handle this. Jack? Yeah? I've been thinking about what you said, about them facing consequences. What exactly did you have in mind? I looked at the stack of evidence Pete had compiled, thought about the months of lies and the years of my life I'd wasted on someone who didn't respect me enough to tell me the truth. I want them to lose everything, Rebecca. Their jobs, their reputations, their comfortable little secret world. I want everyone who knows them to see exactly what kind of people they really are. That sounds perfect to me. Good, because I've got some ideas about how to make that happen. Friday morning arrived gray and drizzly, matching my mood perfectly. Sarah left the house at 8 a.m. sharp, rolling her suitcase behind her and humming that same tune she'd been humming all week. Have a safe trip, I called from the kitchen window. Thanks, honey. I'll call you tonight. Another lie. She hadn't called me from a single one of her fake trips. At 10 a.m., Rebecca and I met at a diner across town to finalize our plan. She looked different, stronger, more determined. She'd gotten her hair cut and was wearing a red dress that made her look confident and beautiful. You look good, I said, as she slid into the booth across from me. I feel good. For the first time in months, I feel like I'm taking control of my life instead of just letting it happen to me. That's exactly how I feel. We ordered coffee and went over the details one more time. Pete had confirmed that both Sarah and David had checked into the Marriott in Portland under David's name. They were in room 1247, and they'd made dinner reservations at an expensive restaurant for 7 p.m. We'll arrive at the restaurant first, I explained. Get a table where we can see them when they come in. Let them get settled and comfortable. Then we approach. What exactly are we going to say? The truth, all of it, loud enough for everyone in the restaurant to hear. Rebecca nodded. I've been practicing in my car. I think I'm ready. Rebecca, are you sure about this? Once we do this, there's no going back. Your marriage will be over. She looked at me with clear, determined eyes. My marriage was over the day David decided to cheat. I'm just making it official. At 4 p.m., we drove to Portland in my pickup truck. The 2-hour drive gave us time to talk about everything except the confrontation waiting for us. Rebecca told me about her job at the hospital, her kids' activities, her dreams of going back to school. I told her about my construction business, my plans to expand into commercial projects, my love of woodworking. It struck me that this was the first real conversation I'd had with anyone in months. Sarah and I had stopped talking about anything meaningful long before her affair started. Can I ask you something personal? Rebecca said as we pulled into Portland. Sure. When did you know your marriage was really over? Not when you found out about the affair, but when did you know it was over? I thought about that for a minute. When she blocked my number, not because of the blocking itself, but because of how easy it was for her to do it. 23 years together, and she could just cut me off like I was nobody. That's when I knew she'd already left the marriage. She just hadn't told me yet. For me, it was last month when David forgot our anniversary. Not just forgot to plan something special, but completely forgot it was our anniversary. When I reminded him, he said he'd been too busy with work to remember. But I found out later he'd spent that entire day texting your wife about their weekend plans. We found the restaurant, an upscale Italian place called Marcello's, and requested a table with a view of the entrance. The hostess, a young woman with bright pink hair, seemed happy to accommodate us. Special occasion? She asked. You could say that, Rebecca replied. We're about to confront my cheating husband and his mistress. The hostess's eyes went wide. Oh, wow. Well, good luck with that. At exactly 7:15 p.m., they walked in. Sarah looked stunning. She was wearing a black dress I'd never seen before, probably bought with our joint credit card for this exact occasion. Her hair was styled differently, more sophisticated. She looked like a woman in love. David was exactly what I'd expected from his photos. Handsome, confident, expensive suit, the kind of smile that probably made women melt. He had his hand on the small of Sarah's back, guiding her through the restaurant like he owned the place. They were seated 3 tables away from us, close enough to hear every word, but far enough that they hadn't noticed us yet. I watched my wife laugh at something David said, watched her lean across the table to touch his hand, watched her be happier than I'd seen her in years. "Are you ready?" Rebecca asked. "Let's do this." We stood up together and walked over to their table. Sarah saw me first. The color drained from her face so quickly I thought she might faint. "Hello, Sarah," I said calmly. "David." David turned around, confusion written across his face. Then he saw Rebecca. "Rebecca? What are you doing here? I thought you were working tonight." I was, but then I got a very interesting phone call from Jack here. "Jack, meet my husband David. David, meet Sarah's husband Jack." The silence that followed was deafening. Other diners were starting to notice the tension at our table. Sarah found her voice first. "Jack, I can explain." "Can you? Because I'd love to hear how you explain 6 months of lies. 6 months of fake girls' trips and fake conferences and fake sick days. 6 months of using our money to fund your affair." "Keep your voice down," David hissed. "People are staring." "Good," Rebecca said, her voice carrying across the restaurant. "Let them stare. Let them see what a cheating husband looks like. Let them see what kind of man abandons his wife and children to play house with his married mistress." Now the entire restaurant was watching. Servers had stopped serving. Other diners had stopped eating. Everyone was focused on our little drama. Sarah tried to stand up, but I put my hand on her shoulder and gently pushed her back down. "We're not done yet, sweetheart. Rebecca and I have some things we'd like to say." "You're embarrassing yourself, Jack," Sarah said, trying to regain control. "This isn't the place for this." "Really, because it seems like the perfect place. After all, this is where you and David like to play pretend, right? Pretend you're single, pretend you don't have spouses at home, pretend your actions don't have consequences." Public reckoning. Rebecca pulled out her phone and read aloud. "David to Sarah last week. Can't wait to get away from Rebecca and the kids. Sometimes I feel like I'm suffocating in my own life." David lunged, but Rebecca stepped back. Another. "Jack is such an idiot. Sarah says he actually believes her conference story. How can someone be so clueless?" "Stop," Sarah whispered. I raised my own phone. Sarah to David. "I've been thinking about divorce. Jack deserves someone who actually loves him, and I deserve to be happy." The restaurant fell silent, every eye on us. "Well, Sarah, you're getting your divorce," I said. "David, Rebecca already filed. You're getting yours too." David paled. "Rebecca, we can work this out. Counseling. Like I begged for 6 months ago while you planned secret getaways with her." Phones emerged, tables filmed. Within moments, half the room recorded. "You've destroyed 2 families," I continued. "Lied to people who loved you, stolen money, betrayed every vow. For what? Sneaking around like teenagers?" Sarah sobbed, mascara streaking. "Jack, please. Somewhere private?" "Private? Like David's rented apartment? Like your secret credit card? Like the life you built behind my back?" "I never meant—" "But you chose every lie, every fake trip, every kiss after being with him." Rebecca stepped toward David. "You risked your children's happiness for sex? Excitement? Was she worth losing everything?" David stared at his untouched pasta, speechless. "Here's what happens next," I said. "Sarah, pack your things. Stay wherever, but not in my house. Rebecca's lawyer handles custody and support. Both your employers get evidence, including the company cards you used for this affair." David stammered, "That's harassment." "No, that's consequences." I dropped a 20 on their table. "Enjoy your dinner. Last one together." Rebecca and I walked out, leaving them in stunned silence amid flashing phones. In the parking lot, Rebecca laughed, relieved, genuine. "That felt incredible. I can't believe we did it. How do you feel?" "Free, scared, but free. You?" I glanced back at the restaurant. Sarah's world lay in ruins. Like I can breathe again. We drove home separately, the silence of the night wrapping around us like a promise. The next morning, the videos were everywhere. Social media exploded. Local news picked it up by noon. Restaurant confrontation exposes double affair. Hashtags trended. Strangers debated loyalty, betrayal, revenge. Sarah moved out that weekend. She stayed with her sister, then a motel. The divorce papers arrived certified. She signed quickly, no contest. The judge awarded me primary custody. Sarah got supervised visitation and ordered therapy. David's company fired him after the evidence surfaced. Rebecca's lawyer ensured he paid child support and half the marital debt. He sold the house to cover legal fees, moved into a one-bedroom apartment on the edge of town. Rebecca and I met for coffee a month later. She looked lighter, like a weight had lifted. I filed for divorce the day after we confronted them. I knew it was over. Me too, I admitted. I just needed to say it out loud. We talked about the kids, mine adjusting slowly, hers asking questions but understanding more than we expected. We agreed to co-parent with civility, to shield them from the worst details. 6 months on, life settled into a new rhythm. I sold the house Sarah and I shared. The proceeds bought a smaller place near the kids' school. Rebecca started a small business, catering, ironically enough. We ran into each other at school events, exchanged polite nods. Sarah tried to rebuild. She found a job in another city, dated someone new. The last I heard, she was in therapy, working through the guilt. David faded from public view, a cautionary tale whispered at barbecues. One evening, Rebecca texted, "Dinner next week? No drama, just food." I smiled and typed back, "I'd like that." We met at a quiet Italian place, different from the one where everything ended. No phones, no crowds, just two people who had survived betrayal and chosen to move forward. Over wine, we laughed about the absurdity of it all, how we'd both been blind, then both opened our eyes at the same moment. "You know," Rebecca said, "I used to think revenge would feel empty." "It didn't feel empty that night," I replied. "No, it felt like justice." We clinked glasses. The future stretched ahead, uncertain but ours to shape. Sometimes the best endings aren't dramatic confrontations, they're quiet dinners with someone who understands exactly what you've lost and what you've gained. The drive back to our town was quiet but not uncomfortable. Rebecca and I had said what we needed to say, and now we were both processing what came next. "Do you think they'll stay together?" Rebecca asked as we crossed the town line. "Honestly? No. Affairs are exciting when they're secret. When they're public and messy and expensive, they lose their appeal pretty quickly." David never did well with conflict. He'll probably blame Sarah for everything and disappear. Sarah's the same way. She's great at playing victim, but she's terrible at taking responsibility. They deserve each other. I dropped Rebecca off at her house, a modest colonial with toys scattered across the front yard and a minivan in the driveway. Real life, in other words. "Thank you, Jack, for everything. I couldn't have done this alone." "Yes, you could have. You're stronger than you think." "Will you keep in touch? I mean, after all this settles down?" "I'd like that." I watched her walk to her front door, and for the first time in months, I felt something like hope. At home, I poured myself a beer and sat in my kitchen, waiting. Sarah's car was still in the driveway from this morning, which meant she'd either taken an Uber to meet David or he'd picked her up. Either way, she'd have to come home eventually. She walked through the door at 11:30 p.m., looking like she'd been crying for hours. "Jack?" "In the kitchen." She appeared in the doorway, still wearing that black dress, but looking nothing like the confident woman who'd walked into the restaurant. She looked broken. "We need to talk," she said. "No, we don't. We need you to pack your things and leave." "Jack, please, let me explain." "There's nothing to explain, Sarah. I heard everything I needed to hear in your text messages to David. I saw everything I needed to see in your credit card statements. I know everything I need to know." She sat down across from me at the table where we'd eaten thousands of meals together. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this." "How was it supposed to happen? Were you planning to just keep lying forever? Or were you going to wait until you'd stolen enough money to make your escape more comfortable?" "I was going to tell you. After David's divorce was final, I was going to ask for a divorce too." "How considerate of you." "Don't be sarcastic, Jack. This is hard enough." I laughed, and the sound surprised both of us. "Hard for you? Sarah, you've been lying to me for 6 months. You blocked my phone number. You've been stealing our money to fund your affair. You've been coming home and kissing me after spending the day in bed with another man, and you think this is hard for you. I never meant to hurt you, but you did hurt me. Every single day for 6 months you hurt me, and you didn't care enough to stop." Sarah started crying again. "I love him, Jack. I know that doesn't make it right, but I do love him." "Then you can love him from your own apartment, with your own money, after your own divorce." "What about the house? Our savings? The business?" "You'll get whatever the court says you deserve, which, considering the adultery and the financial misconduct, probably won't be much." "You can't be serious." I pulled out the folder Pete had prepared and set it on the table between us. "Bank records showing the money you stole. Credit card statements showing the hotels and dinners and gifts you bought for David. Email records showing you planning to leave me. Phone records showing the lies you told. I'm very serious, Sarah. She stared at the folder like it was a snake. I could fight this. I could hire my own lawyer. With what money? The joint account you've been draining? The credit cards you've maxed out? Good luck with that. Jack, we were married for 23 years. Doesn't that mean anything to you? I looked at my wife, my soon-to-be ex-wife, and felt nothing but sadness. Not anger anymore, just sadness for the time we'd wasted and the love we'd destroyed. It meant everything to me, Sarah, but it didn't mean enough to you to keep you from throwing it away for 6 months of excitement with a married man. She sat there for a long time, crying quietly. Finally, she looked up at me. What happens now? Now you pack your things and leave. Tomorrow my lawyer files the divorce papers. Next week your employer gets copies of the evidence showing how you've been misusing company resources. After that, you and David figure out how to build a life together without destroying anyone else's. Where am I supposed to go? That's not my problem anymore, Sarah. You made your choice. Now you get to live with it. She went upstairs and packed 2 suitcases. I heard her moving around our bedroom, opening drawers and closets, taking pieces of the life we'd built together. When she came back downstairs, she looked around the kitchen like she was memorizing it. I'm sorry, Jack. I really am sorry. I know you are, but sorry doesn't fix this. Will you ever forgive me? I thought about that question for a moment. Maybe someday I'll forgive you for cheating, but I'll never forgive you for making me feel like I was crazy for noticing that something was wrong. I'll never forgive you for blocking my number like I was some stranger, and I'll never forgive you for wasting the best years of my life on a lie. Sarah picked up her suitcases and walked to the door. She turned back one last time. Goodbye, Jack. Goodbye, Sarah. The door closed behind her, and I was alone in my house for the first time in 23 years. I finished my beer and went to bed in the guest room. I didn't want to sleep in the bed I'd shared with her, at least not tonight. Monday morning, I called my office and told them I'd be taking the week off. Then I called Rebecca. How are you holding up? I asked. Better than I expected. David came home last night and tried to convince me that the whole thing was Sarah's idea. Apparently she seduced him, and he was just too weak to resist. Classy guy. The best part was when he asked if we could work things out. He actually suggested couples counseling, after 6 months of cheating. What did you tell him? I told him he could discuss it with my lawyer. Then I changed the locks. Good for you. Jack, I've been thinking about what you said at the restaurant. About consequences. Do you really think their employers will care about the affair? Sarah's company has a strict policy about misusing corporate resources. The credit card statements show she's been charging personal expenses to the company card for months. That's grounds for immediate termination. And David works for a financial services firm. They're very concerned about employee integrity. An affair is bad enough, but using company resources to fund it, that's career suicide. So they'll both lose their jobs? Probably. And once word gets around, which it will, thanks to all those people filming at the restaurant, they'll have a hard time finding new ones. This is a small business community. Everyone talks to everyone. I should feel bad about that, shouldn't I? Do you? No, not even a little bit. Then don't. They made their choices. Now they get to live with the consequences. Over the next few weeks, everything played out exactly as I'd predicted. Sarah was fired from her job after an internal investigation revealed months of financial misconduct. David was let go from his firm after the video from the restaurant went viral on social media. Their affair, which had seemed so exciting and romantic in secret, became a public embarrassment that followed them everywhere. Rebecca and I stayed in touch, supporting each other through the divorce proceedings. Her kids, who were 8 and 10, handled the separation better than expected. David had been so absent from their lives that his physical absence didn't change much. The hardest part, Rebecca told me over coffee one afternoon, is explaining to them why Daddy doesn't live here anymore without making him sound like a monster. You're a good mother for protecting them like that. Some days I want to tell them the truth. I want them to know that their father chose another woman over his family, but they'll figure that out on their own when they're older. What about you? Are you doing okay? I'm doing better than okay. I'm doing great. I got a promotion at the hospital. I'm taking online classes to finish my nursing degree, and for the first time in years, I'm not walking on eggshells in my own house. That's wonderful, Rebecca. What about you? Any regrets? I thought about that question. Did I regret destroying Sarah's life? Did I regret the public humiliation, the job loss, the financial devastation? No, I said finally. No regrets. She had 6 months to tell me the truth. 6 months to ask for a divorce honestly. 6 months to treat me with basic human decency. Instead, she chose to lie, steal, and cheat. Everything that happened to her after that was her choice. Do you know where she is now? Last I heard, she was working at a retail store in the next town over. David moved back in with his parents after he lost his apartment. Apparently, their great love affair wasn't quite strong enough to survive unemployment and public humiliation. Funny how that works. 6 months after the confrontation at the restaurant, my divorce was final. I kept the house, most of the savings, and my business. Sarah got what the court determined she deserved after her adultery and financial misconduct. Almost nothing. Rebecca's divorce was finalized a month later. She kept the house, got primary custody of the kids, and David was ordered to pay child support he could barely afford. On the day my divorce decree arrived in the mail, Rebecca called. Want to celebrate? I mean celebrate being free, not celebrate the end of our marriages. I'd like that. We went to dinner at a quiet restaurant across town. Not Italian, and definitely not the scene of any confrontations. Just two people who'd been through hell and come out the other side stronger. Can I tell you something? Rebecca said over dessert. Of course. I'm glad it happened. Not the cheating, not the lies, but the discovery, the confrontation, the divorce. I'm glad I found out the truth, and I'm glad I had the courage to do something about it. Why? Because I spent 8 years trying to make David happy. 8 years walking on eggshells, making excuses for his behavior, blaming myself for his distance. Now I know it was never about me. He was just a selfish person who wanted what he wanted without caring who got hurt. And now? Now I'm free to be happy. Really happy, not just pretending to be happy. I raised my glass. To being free. To being free, she agreed. As we left the restaurant that night, Rebecca turned to me. Jack? Yeah? Thank you for calling me that day, for showing me the truth, for having the courage to do what needed to be done. Thank you for being strong enough to stand with me. Do you think we'll stay friends? After all this settles down and we both move on with our lives? I hope so. We've been through something together that most people never experience. That creates a bond. A good bond or a trauma bond? A good bond. We helped each other find the truth and the strength to act on it. That's something to be proud of. A year later, I ran into David at a gas station. He looked older, tired, defeated. He was driving a beat-up Honda instead of his former BMW, wearing clothes that had seen better days. He saw me and immediately looked away, but I walked over to him. David. Jack? He couldn't meet my eyes. How are you doing? I'm okay. Getting by. Good for you. He finished pumping his gas and started to leave, then turned back. Jack? Yeah? I'm sorry. For what I did to you, to Rebecca, to the kids. I know it doesn't matter now, but I am sorry. I looked at this man who had helped destroy my marriage and felt nothing. Not anger, not satisfaction, not pity, nothing. Apology accepted, David. He nodded and drove away in his beat-up Honda back to whatever small life he'd managed to build from the wreckage of his choices. That night, I called Rebecca and told her about the encounter. How did it feel? She asked. Like closure, like the final page of a book I'd already finished reading. That's exactly how it should feel. Rebecca? Yeah? Are you happy? Really happy. I am. My kids are doing great. I love my job. I'm dating a wonderful man who treats me like I matter. What about you? I'm happy too. Different than before, but better. Stronger. Good. We deserve to be happy, Jack. After everything we went through, we deserve good lives. Yes, we do. 2 years after the confrontation that ended both our marriages, Rebecca and I still talk regularly. We've both moved on. She's engaged to a doctor from her hospital, and I'm seeing a teacher from the local elementary school. But we maintain our friendship, built on mutual respect and shared experience. Sometimes people ask me if I regret how I handled Sarah's affair, if I think the public humiliation was too much, if I should have handled it privately, if I should have tried to forgive and move on. My answer is always the same. Sarah had every opportunity to handle our marriage with honesty and dignity. She chose lies, theft, and betrayal instead. She chose to make our private business public the moment she started flaunting her affair around town. She chose to humiliate me with her actions. I simply chose to make sure the consequences matched the choices, and I sleep very well at night.